welcome to Vijetha Study Circle. Today in this video we are going to discuss about the satellite launching vehicles. Many of us know India use the different categories of satellite launching vehicles, and out of that in this video we are going to discuss about the satellite launching vehicle, the augmented satellite launching vehicle, the polar satellite launching vehicle and the geosynchronous satellite launching vehicle. So in this few minutes we are going to discuss about what is the difference between all these categories of satellite launching vehicles and in which way they are different from one thing to another. So let's get started. The SLV, it is the satellite launch vehicle. The satellite launch vehicle, the category 3. If we see the SLV 3 category, it is the India's first experimental satellite launch vehicle, and it contained the 4 stages. Under all the stages it is filled with the solid. So here we have mentioned the solid stages. All the 4 stages are with the solid stages, and this SLV 3 is weighing around the 17 tons weight, and it is nearly 22 meter in height, and it is capable of placing 40 kg payloads in the lower Earth orbit. All these specifications are very important in the exam point of view. So I'm again revising here. This is nearly the height of 22 meters. So if we see exactly, it is 22.7 meters in height, and all the 4 stages here are equipped with the solid fuel, and its weight is roughly 17 tons, and it is having the payload capacity of 40 kgs, and it has the capability to place the satellites in the low Earth orbit. And as we said, it is the first experimental flight, and India has done this experiment in the 1979 first, and it was the partially successful program for India. And after that again India has tried this launching vehicle in the year 1980, and there onwards it has launched in 1981 and in the 1983 again. And we have placed the satellites first in the Rohini satellites carrying remote sensing sensors. So this was the first satellite launched by the SLV, and it is basically the remote sensing satellite. And the successful culmination of this SLV project showed the way to advance our launching vehicles later. And after SLV 3 we have moved to the augmented SLV 3 version, and later we have shifted to the polar satellite launch vehicles, then to the geosynchronous satellite launch vehicles. But the first one is SLV, the satellite launch vehicle 3, and we have to remember what is the specifications of this satellite and when the Indian government has first used this one. And the first one was the Rohini satellite, which was placed in the lower Earth orbit by the satellite launch vehicle 3. And if we move forward, the augmented satellite launch vehicle, it is the program designed to augment the payload capacity. Especially if we see the SLV capacity in the previous slide, it has the payload capacity of only 40 kgs, and this augmented satellite launch vehicle majorly targeted to increase the payload capacity to 150 kgs. So from the 40 kg satellite payload to, it has increased this one to 150 kgs. So this is the 150 kgs payload capacity. This is nearly thrice that of the SLV 3 for low Earth orbits. So while building upon the experience gained from the SLV 3 missions, the ASLV proved to be a low cost version. So compared to the SLV 3, it is the low cost version and the intermediate vehicle to demonstrate and validate the critical technologies, and that would be needed for the future launch vehicles like we are using like the strap-on technology, the inertial navigations, the bulbous heat shield, the vertical integration, the closed loop guidances. These are the different type of technologies we use while launching our satellites. So this augmented satellite launching vehicle is one of the version we have developed from the satellite launch vehicle. And just remember the payload capacity. Why? Because we have developed this satellite for increasing of payload capacity. So if we see the other specifications around, this height is nearly 23.5 meters and the lift off weight is 39 tons. This is nearly 39 tons satellite launching vehicle. And in this also we have used all the stages the solid fuel. So the only major difference you observe here is the payload capacity. And if we see the polar satellite launch vehicle, the polar satellite launch vehicle is considered as third generation launch vehicle. So we have seen the SLV and the ASLV, and the PSLV is considered as third generation launch vehicle of India, and it is the first Indian launch vehicle to be equipped with the liquid stages, because the SLV and the ASLV, if we see, these both are basically the solid vehicles, but the first time the India has done the updation of liquid stages in the PSLV. That's why we say it is the India's first launch vehicle to be equipped with the liquid stages. And after its successful launch in October 1994, this was the first time the PSLV was successfully launched the satellite. Since that time, the PSLV emerged as the reliable and the versatile launch vehicle for India. And nearly by July 2017, we have launched 39 satellites consecutively with this satellite launching vehicle. And during the period of 1994-2017, the vehicles has launched 48 Indian satellites and 209 satellites for the customers from the abroad. That means it was the one of the successful launching vehicle we have used from the period of 1994 to 2017. And if we see further, the polar satellite launch vehicle is a third generation launch vehicle, as we discussed earlier. And again I am stressing on the point, it is very important. It is the first launch vehicle to be equipped with the liquid stages. It is very important in the exam point of view. So if we see what is the four stage in this satellite launching vehicle. First, a large solid rocket motor forming the first stage. That means it is the solid at the first stage, and earth storable liquid stage at the second stage. Solid at first, liquid at second. A high performance solid rocket motor as the third stage, and a liquid stage with engines as the fourth stage. That means if you observe the arrangement here, the solid stage at the first, then liquid, then solid, then liquid. So in this PSLV, the Indian space satellite launching vehicle has used the technology of alternate solid liquid stages. And this vehicle successfully launched the two spacecraft very famously. Those are Chandrayaan-1 in 2008 was launched with the PSLV, and Mars Orbiter spacecraft in the 2013. This was also launched with the PSLV only. So if we see the specifications, the height of PSLV is 44 meters in height, and its lift-off weight is 320 tons, and it has the propulsion of both the solid and the liquid fuels, and it can nearly have the payload capacity of 1860 kg. So you can observe how much of the huge variation we brought in the launching vehicles. Earlier it was only 150 kg, now it is 1860 kg. And this polar satellite launching vehicle can place the satellites in the sun synchronous polar orbit. It can place the sun synchronous polar orbit, and 1300 kg in the geosynchronous transfer orbit. So it has the capacity of placing the orbits both in the sun synchronous polar orbit and the geosynchronous transfer orbit. But if you observe the earlier satellite launching vehicles, they are capable of placing the satellites only in the lower Earth orbit. So this is all about PSLV. So the next one is the GSLV, that is Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle. And this project was initiated in the year 1990 with the objective of acquiring an Indian launch capability for geosynchronous satellites. So we have the different type of orbits to be placed the satellites. Some are referred as lower Earth orbits, some are sun synchronous orbits, some are geosynchronous orbits. So this GSLV is mainly targeted to place the satellites in the geosynchronous orbit. And the GSLV uses major components that are already proven in the polar satellite launch vehicles in the form of solid rocket boosters, and along with that it uses the liquid fuel Vikas engine, and due to the thrust required for injection the satellite in a geosynchronous transfer orbit, the third stage was powered with the cryogenic engine. This is very important because you need so much of the thrust to place the satellites in the geostationary transfer orbit. That's why this GSLV has used at the third stage the cryogenic engine, which is at the time India did not possess and had the technology know-how to build the one. And later we have done the developments in the GSLV. What are the developments? If we see, we brought the different variants under the GSLV. The GSLV rockets using the Russian cryogenic stage, because the India at that time does not has the cryogenic technology. So we got that one from the Russia, and we have designed the Gslv Mark I first. This was the first variant under the GSLV, the Gslv Mark I, while versions using the indigenous cryogenic upper stage are designated the Gslv Mark II. First we brought this technology from Russia, and later in the Gslv Mark II we got our indigenous technology. All GSLV launches have been conducted from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. So all the GSLV experiments are done from this Satish Dhawan Space Center of Sriharikota. And the geosynchronous satellite vehicle, the Mark II, if we see, it is the largest launch vehicle developed by India. This was developed by India, and it was the largest launch vehicle which is currently in operation. And the fourth generation launch vehicle, this is referred as fourth generation launch vehicle, and it is the 3-stage vehicle. If we observe, all the earlier were 4 stages. The SLV is all 4 stages contain solid, ASLV all 4 stages contain solid, and PSLV contain 4 stages but alternatively solid liquid. But the GSLV is very famous for containing only the 3 stages. Under this it is a 3-stage vehicle with 4 liquid strap-ons, and the indigenously developed cryogenic upper stage, which is the flight proven, forms the 3rd stage of GSLV Mark II, and it contains at the upper stage the cryogenic engine. That is very important. From January 2014, the vehicle has achieved 4 consecutive successes. This is about the GSLV. And if we see the other specifications, the height of GSLV Mark II is 49 meters, and its lift-off weight is 414 tons, and the propulsion, as we discussed, it is the 3 stages: solid, liquid and cryogenic engine at the top. And the payload capacity, it has increased from the PSLV. It is nearly 2200 kgs, and it has the capacity to place the satellites in the geosynchronous transfer orbit. And other variants are the Gslv Mark III. The Gslv Mark III chosen to launch the Chandrayaan-2 spacecraft. This was the very latest one. And it is also the 3-stage heavy lift launch vehicle developed by the ISRO. And the vehicle has 2 solid strap-ons, a core liquid booster and the cryogenic upper stage. And Gslv Mark III is designed to carry 4-ton class of satellites into geosynchronous transfer orbit and about 10 tons to lower Earth orbit, which is about twice the capacity of Gslv Mark II. So the Gslv Mark III is updated in this way. It is designed to carry 4-ton class of satellites into the geosynchronous orbit and 10 tons in the low Earth orbit. If we see, it is nearly having the twice of capability of Gslv Mark II. The first development of this geosynchronous satellite launching vehicle Mark III is the Gslv MK3D1 successfully placed GSAT-19 satellite to a geosynchronous transfer orbit in 2017 from the Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota. So the first successful launch from the Gslv Mark III is GSAT-19. And Gslv Mark III D2, the second development flight of Gslv Mark III, successfully launched GSAT-29, a high throughout communication satellite in 2018 again from the Sriharikota. And Gslv Mark III M1, the series M1, successfully injected Chandrayaan-2, the India's second lunar mission, into Earth parking orbit in 2019 from the Sriharikota. So if we see, these are the 3 major launchings we have done from the Gslv Mark III. But remember the series, the D1 has placed the GSAT-19, D2 has placed the GSAT-29 and M1 has placed the Chandrayaan-2. And if we see the satellite launching vehicle specifications here, the height is 43.43 meters and its lift-off weight is 640 tons and it has solid, liquid and cryogen just like our Gslv Mark II. But the difference here is it can able to carry 4000 kg satellites. So it is of course can place the satellites in the geosynchronous transfer orbit. This is the Gslv Mark III. So in this way we have the different variants under the Gslv, the Mark M, that is we say the Mark MK1 series, MK2 series and we have the MK3 series. What is difference between this liquid and solid fuel rockets? We have seen the SLV and ASLV are solid fuel rockets and some are liquid fuel rockets like the PSLV. So what is difference between these two? The liquid fuel rocket consists of fuel and oxygen. The liquid fuel means it contains both the fuel and oxygen, or it is also known as oxidizer in liquid stage. They are combined in a combination chamber and then get ignited. That means the fuel gets mixed with the oxygen, then it gets ignited. The fuel flow to the engine can be controlled, the amount of thrust produced can be regulated and the engine can be turned off or on whenever it is needed. That means it has a controlling capacity based on the thrust of the engine. It can keep on the engine to be on and off automatically. But if we see the solid fuel rocket, it consists of fuel and the oxidizer that are pre-mixed in a solid form. It is important, but here you have in the liquid state. Once the solid fuel gets ignited, The resulting thrust cannot be regulated or turned off. That is actually the disadvantage of this solid fuel we have used in the SLV and the ASLV versions. The moment when you ignite this solid fuel, you cannot control or regulate this one. But in the liquid fuel, we have this advantage. And this fuel system is simpler, safer and cheaper, but less efficient than that of the liquid fuel rocket. That's why we have updated our launching vehicles from the solid fuel towards the liquid fuel. These are actually the solid fuels, and later we have shifted this one to the liquid fuel. So in this way we got the development. So this is actually the major difference between the solid fuel and the liquid fuel. And what is the functioning of this cryogenic engines? The rocket engine needs enormous amount of thrust to escape the Earth's gravitational pull. You all know the Earth has the more gravitational pull. To escape from this gravitational pull, the rocket engine needs tremendous of thrust. However, the chemical used for these engines are hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen used as a fuel, while oxygen is used as a oxidizer. That produces a good thrust found in Earth in the form of gas. Carrying hydrogen and oxygen in their gaseous form will require a bigger fuel chamber, which not only increase the size of the launching vehicles but also the weight of the rockets. This will mean undertaking of impossible task to send a launch vehicle into space. So we draw a solution for this problem. The solution is to use the hydrogen and oxygen in their liquid form. Earlier we used to use this combination in the gaseous form. Later we converted this one into the liquid form or in the cryogenic form, which is actually an easier way to transport. And the major importance here is you can reduce the volume of the propellant so that the density increases. As the density increases in the liquid form, you have the more thrust to be generated in the less burning time, which is very important for the satellite launching vehicles to escape this gravitational pull and to safely place these satellites in the required orbit. That is the importance of cryogenic engine. And this cryogenic fuel is used in the rockets, the spaceships, the satellites, because the ordinary fuel cannot be used in space due to the absence of an environment that supports the combustion. This fuel requires the storage at an extremely low temperature, that is minus 253 degrees Celsius, to maintain them in a liquid state. So the cryogenic engine we are using just because we want to give the more thrust and we want to reduce the weight of this launching vehicles. And some are semi-cryogenic engines. Unlike the cryogenic engines, the semi-cryogenic engine uses the refined kerosene instead of liquid hydrogen. Till now we spoke that the cryogenic engine uses the liquid form of hydrogen, but the semi-cryogenic engines uses the refined kerosene and the liquid oxygen is used as oxidizer. The advantage of using this semi-cryogenic engine is it requires the refined kerosene, which is lighter than the liquid fuel and can be stored in normal temperature. And the kerosene combined with the liquid oxygen provides the higher thrust to the rocket. The refined kerosene occupies the less space, making it possible to carry more propellant in a semi-cryogenic engine's fuel compartment. A semi-cryogenic engine is more powerful, environment friendly and cost effective as compared to the cryogenic engine. So now we are towards developing this semi-cryogenic engine technology and we want to reduce the cryogenic engine version and we want to move towards the semi-cryogenic engine advantages. So now we are towards the storing of this semi-cryogenic engine fuel at the normal temperature. And as we have seen the importance of semi-cryogenic Semi-Cryogenic Engines just now. The GSLV uses the 3 stages launching system. The first stage, it is the solid stage, which provides the lift off to the rocket. Second stage, it is a liquid. Third stage is a cryogenic stage. This stage provides a good amount of thrust so that we can put the satellites in a geostationary orbit, as we have already discussed. And India developed the technology of cryogenic engine, and to develop it further, ISRO is required to use a combination of solid, semi-cryogenic, as we have just now discussed. We are towards the developing of this technology. The semi-cryogenic and the cryogenic stages instead of a combination of solid, liquid and cryogenic stages. That means we are now towards the shifting of the first stage as solid stage. The second stage, instead of liquid stage, we want to develop the semi-cryogenic stage, and the third stage as cryogenic stage. So now we want to move from solid, liquid, cryogenic towards the solid, semi-cryogenic and the cryogenic stages. Using this semi-cryogenic engine in second stage, the GSLV will be able to provide more thrust and carry more weight into the space. And India is planned to use this semi-cryogenic engine in the GSLV satellite launch vehicles and unified launch vehicles and the reusable launch vehicles in the near future. So we are hoping towards the developing of this technology by the ISRO. So these all are about the different categories of the satellite launch vehicles: the SLV, ASLV, PSLV, GSLV, and the different variants under the GSLV, and in which way we use the different stages under this satellite launch vehicles. This is one of the important topic under the science and technology for the competitive level of examinations. So we hope you all have enjoyed the video, and go through the video slowly to understand the content in a better format, and see you soon, you guys, with another new video. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Please do like, share and comment, and subscribe to our channel for further notifications.